We were just alerted that the Republicans have begun work on that resolution to find the Attorney General in contempt. Republican Congressman Jason Chaffetz of Utah is a key member of the House Oversight Committee. He is headed to that meeting in a moment, but agreed to speak with us first. Congressman, welcome back to the program. Is this vote tomorrow going to happen?
Yeah, I think it is. The Speaker addressed all the House Republicans and said, unfortunately, that meeting yesterday produced nothing, and we're left with no choice but to move forward.
The White House was mum about whether there are last-minute negotiations between the White House and House Republicans. What can you tell us?
I don't think there are any. This is pretty simple. They need to provide the documents to Congress for a duly issued subpoena. We deserve, the Brian Terry family deserves, the American people deserve to know the truth. There are 140,000 documents pertaining to Fast and Furious. The White House has offered up a couple of hundred. And yesterday, when they offered the representative sample of what they believe is a fair compilation, it amounted to less than 30 pieces of paper. But even within that, it showed that there were emails going directly to Eric Holder when, remember, he said he didn't have anything to do with it. It also showed that Jason Weinstein, one of the deputy attorney generals, had gone down to Phoenix actually months after the death of Brian Terry and gave a glowing report saying that the ATF agents were doing wonderful things down there. And one of the deep concerns that we have, Megyn, is that there is a concerted effort, an obstruction of Congress, which is a crime, that may have been happening there within the Department of Justice, and thus the reluctance to share those documents with us.
Okay, a lot in that answer. With respect to showing communications with the Attorney General, that is not surprising if they came after February 2011. And by that point, the Attorney General was looped in. So they don't have any document that you saw showing the Attorney General linked to the birth of Fast and Furious or the intricate details of it prior to Brian Terry's death yet, do you?
We think we've seen a number of documents that point in that direction, but until we get all the documents, we definitively do not know. That's what this is about. We're not trying to prosecute the whole operation of Fast and Furious. What we're worried about is the February 4th letter, which was a lie. They had to rescind it 10 months later. But provide the documents surrounding
in which they claimed that guns were never allowed to walk, and that turned out to be not the case, of course. That was a representation by the DOJ to you, to your colleague Chuck Grassley in the Senate, and they had to withdraw that letter months later after the Republicans stayed on them doggedly. Finally, they came out and said, all right, it wasn't true. But they say, Congressman, that they were mistaken. This is what they write. They say that they had given you, this is just a statement today, that they had given you documents as recently as yesterday that show how the department responded to Congress's inquiry and dispelling any notion of an intention to conceal or an intention to provide misleading information to Congress. They believe it was a good faith mistake. They rectified it. That should be the end of the matter.
No, there's a serious concern, a prevailing theory that there was an obstruction of Congress. And we get that from the whistleblowers. We get that not only from the gun dealers that were down there participating at the request of the ATF. I mean, that's a serious allegation that is moving forward here. And let's also keep in mind, Megyn, the National Border Patrol Council, this is the AFL-CIO-oriented union. This is 17,000 Border Patrol agents, people on the front line. They came out and said, if Eric Holder were to be a Border Patrol agent, he would be fired. He'd be unfit for service. So even the frontline guys, the union guys working down there, see this as just a total obstruction of what would ultimately lead us, hopefully, to the truth.
We are now hearing that there may be as many as 21 Democrats who are prepared to cross the aisle and vote in favor of holding the Attorney General in contempt. One of those, Jim Matheson of Utah, a Democrat, came out and said, sadly, it seems that it will take holding the Attorney General in contempt to communicate that evasiveness is unacceptable. It is a vote I will support. What are your numbers looking like right now in terms of the number overall who will support this and the number who will cross party lines?
I don't quite know, but I do know that there are 31 brave Democrats in June of last year who sent a letter to the Department of Justice and the White House saying, you're not being compliant here. And really, Megyn, nothing's changed over the years. So if you signed that letter more than a year ago and you look at where we are today, nothing's changed. That's the shame. We could put this to bed. It should have been done a year ago, but we could put this to bed right now. We don't need to go through this if they'll just provide the documents. They say there's nothing in there to hide. Well, if there's nothing in there to hide, provide the documents. It's that simple, Megyn.
Congressman, they have maintained deliberative privilege, and they say, and just so our viewers know, there's executive privilege that protects the president and his communications, but then there's another faction of it that protects agency communications, including intra-agency DOJ communications. President Bush asserted that. President Obama has asserted that, and courts have recognized that privilege. It doesn't have to involve the president to be privileged, potentially, to preserve the ability for people to speak openly, those who advise the president, like Mr. Holder and his deputies. Now, that privilege exists. They say that's why you're getting these documents, because of that privilege and the need to protect documents like that. Why do you say that privilege has no application here?
Well, what they're going to have to do, remember, tomorrow there's actually going to be two votes. One is the contempt. The other allows us in a civil court to move forward if the U.S. attorney decides not to prosecute. So we'll actually have two votes tomorrow, allowing us to move on. And if we have to go through that civil route, then they'll have to document by document, why they think executive privilege is necessary. And there are 140,000 documents. So it's going to be quite lengthy to go through that process. But remember, before last week, the White House said they were never involved in all of this,
but
and that the president
was
a person.
They don't have to be.
There are other documents that we have had as whistleblowers and others that we know are out there that they still haven't provided to us, and we don't believe are protected by executive privilege.
Do you think by this time tomorrow we will have an affirmative vote in the House to hold the Attorney General of the United States in criminal contempt?
It'll be more about probably 5 o'clock or so Eastern is my best guess, but we're marching down that path. We're left with no other alternatives, unfortunately.
Congressman Jason Chaffetz, thank you so much, sir. We appreciate you coming on,
Megyn.
as always.
Thank you.
You heard it here. We will watch tomorrow.